Time for, haven't we? The ninth round, I think, of the Formula One Grand Prix season. We race this weekend at Barcelona for what will be an absolutely amazing weekend. And we've already seen so far this weekend an amazing amount of action. 4.6577 kilometres, 2.894 miles, circuit elevation of 29 metres, and plenty of winners here in the past. Overtake detection, they're coming on the exit of New Holland, turn 14. The most pole positions here, Michael Schumacher and last year's winner, Oscar Piastri. Can he back that up this year? We are going one step harder one step softer in the allocation, C4, C3, and C2. How will those tyres be used this weekend? Of course, tyre a big talking point coming into this weekend, and for what will be an amazing weekend. We're running a bit behind schedule here. We've had to move the schedule up a little bit. So technically we're on time, but also we're about 20 minutes behind at the moment due to some technical issues that put us about 15, 20 minutes behind our schedule this afternoon. But we're back. We're back for 1 hour of free practice. We've also got GT World Challenge Australia, which, of course, wrapped up just over an hour ago. Harry Benjamin and Karun Changendok up in the commentary box this weekend. We do not have Martin Brundle and David Croft up in the commentary box. It is the two historic people up in the commentary box. Harry Benjamin, who normally does ITV, but now this weekend over on Sky Sports. This to be an amazing round of the Formula One World Championship. And at the moment, we've got Kimi Antonelli leading the championship after quite a controversial round. And I said this in my debrief in the video that went out about 2 days ago. Hamilton, Russell, Hadjar, Piastri, Gasly, Colapinto, Bortoleto, Ocon, Russell, Hulkenberg. Russell with 2 penalties and finished P14 outside the points. Kimi Antonelli now leads the championship. You can see there the points on the screen. It's about 66 points, the margin between Antonelli and Hamilton. It's put Hamilton up into second, Russell down to third. Leclerc stays fourth with only 13 points, though, off the back of Russell. And this weekend, and the commentary team on Sky Sports hates saying this, but this has to be somewhat of a comeback round for George Russell. He has to score good points. Yes, there's no sprint on offer this weekend, just like there wasn't in Monaco. If we're going to see the controversy we saw last round, then this round is going to be 100 times better. There you can see there the standings in the constructors, 80 points between Mercedes and Ferrari at the moment. They're 3 whole race wins ahead. Kimi Antonelli is 4 race wins ahead, so he could go 4 races without scoring any points and still be in the lead of the championship. So very, very good and very nicely done from Kimi Antonelli. Coming into the start of the season, though, you wouldn't expect that Kimi Antonelli would be so on form. I certainly wasn't. I wasn't expecting Kimi Antonelli to be such on form. But I mean, things change. After Australia, I thought bloody George Russell was going to be up there. So look, things can very much change. But yeah, FP2 going to be exciting. I'm going to be giving my predictions since I didn't have time to record the prediction video. So we'll get that out of the way throughout this But of course, some big news. Pierre Gasly got his podium back, his rightful podium back, because he fought off a penalty. So he got a penalty taken away from him, and it's given Pierre Gasly his podium back, and it's put Isaac Hadjar down to 4th after that round. So Isaac Hadjar there. At one point throughout this weekend, will unfortunately have to go hand over that trophy to the Alpine team of Pierre Gasly, which is quite unfortunate. Yeah, but FP2 now underway. Green light is on at the end of the pit lane, so drivers will make their way out of pit lane. At the end of FP1, though, we did see a lot of qualifying simulations, and I could only imagine FP2 will be a bit of a race run for some of these teams. For most of these teams, actually, I could only imagine there will be a lot of race running happening. FP1, it's just mainly about getting used to the car, getting used to the track, all that sort of stuff. That's mainly what it is. But again, Barcelona is very much known in the racing world, so we'll see how that plays out. But this is going to be good. 58 minutes remaining left on the clock. Charles Leclerc making his way out of pit lane. The drivers that weren't in FP1 due to the rookie session, practically rookie session, we had 7 rookies in FP1. One of them displaced Lando Norris out of his car, and that puts a rookie inside Lando Norris's car. Kimi Antonelli, we've talked about it before. This weekend, will this be the biggest amount of pressure Kimi Antonelli will be under all season? We will have to wait and find out. I could only imagine that Kimi Antonelli might feel a slight bit of pressure.
The wind picks up, and that creates some real balance issues, Harry, around turn 9 especially, at the top of the hill. You're quite exposed there, the final corner as well. Annoyingly, all the flags that I used to look at in the last 25 years of coming in seem to have gone. So, we're flagless. We're flagless. I can't actually tell you what's happening with the wind.
We'll try about that. Maybe Ted down in the pit lane can find a flag at some point and let us know.
Need to do the golf thing, don't you? Pick up some grass and just
throw it in the air.
The problem with the pit lane, though, is it's a funnel. So actually, that's a great shot here. Well, it was a great shot. That big wide shot of the last corner can show you where the grandstand is, and it funnels the wind around the pit lane area. You get the grandstand at one side and the pit building on the other side. So you never get a clear indicator of what the wind is doing if you're standing in the pit lane. You get of what's happening at the top of the hill at turn 9.
Well, standing in the pit lane, someone who can tell us a little bit more is Ted Kravitz. Good afternoon.
Hello again, Harry. Hello, Karun. Right, so Karun, you just set that up for me to fail instantly, having asked me, as being in the pit lane, to tell you what the wind direction is, and just saying, when you stand in the pit lane, you never get a true sense of what the wind direction is at turn 9. Do you want me to tell you, Karun, what I can see with the flags, or is it instantly inadmissible information?
You can. I'm setting you up to walk up the hill to turn 9.
I'm your servant in the pit lane. Right, there are some flags just by the fan stage, away to your right at the end of the main grandstand, and they are indicating that it's almost a headwind down the main straight. It's just coming in slightly, maybe at about a 30-degree angle. If the drivers were looking down the main straight to their left-hand side. Okay, so I guess if you're looking at turn 9, then that would be if it's a slight crosswind, but more or less a headwind on the main straight. What would that make it for turn 9?
You get a tail as you come around over the crest of the ground. So as you get to the exit, the wind will catch the rear of the car.
Yeah, so it would make it more difficult.
Yes,
and non-wind related. Yeah, so we'll see with that. But elsewhere in the pit lane, I did notice the team's very keen to get on with it. Of course, let's see what Kimi Antonelli has up his sleeve. But in the game in between, I'm interested in the game between the two Mercedes drivers. Do you think we've reached the point with a little bit of gamesmanship, trickery between the two? Do you think any of them will want to keep something in reserve for that final run in Q3 on Saturday, or do they not really want to do that, or do they not able to do that? Do you think the guys, their engineers, would see that in the data if either Russell or Antonelli try to keep something from their opponent before the time?
I think they absolutely will. I think that's certainly going to happen at this stage of the game. I mean, George Russell was even coming out with some of the mind games last time out in Monaco, very much behind the fact that this is Kimi's championship to lose now. That all plays a factor in the chase for the title.
Yeah, it didn't play a factor in Monaco, did it?
That's always fun.
No, I think the great drivers always keep a little bit in their pocket and don't show their teammates until it matters in qualifying. I remember Kimi Raikkonen at McLaren used to play that game with Juan Pablo Montoya all the time. You know, Montoya would often be quicker on Friday. He'd often be quicker at the start of Saturday practice, and then he'd always do that final run before qualifying, and Kimi would just unleash this half a second of performance, which would send, you know, that period between the final practice and qualifying, it would send the Montoya side of the garage suddenly scrambling for, ooh, what is this? We're now behind.
Would you do that?
I think I'm not one of the great drivers, but I would. You'd still play the game. I think you'd still play the game, 100%. You know, whenever you compete against your teammate, and if you found, you know, a corner where you found a particular trick or a particular line, and you looked at the data and practice and you were quicker, you would not tell them why. It's harder these days with the onboards and the level of data of GPS and things, but I think you do the opposite sometimes and just. You tried on a slow lap, for example. You tried on a lap that you then abort. But I would often say to my engineer, you have a button on the steering wheel. All these drivers have it, a marker button, and or you can use anything as a marker if you want. So if I remember, for example, you know, if I'd done a particular corner in a way, and I looked at the delta time and I was up, I would back out of the lap, but I would hit the marker button twice. I would press the radio button. I'd go double tap like a click on a mouse. And I'd say to the engineer afterwards, right, remember when I did the double click, talk to me afterwards about turn 7. Because I would have tried something and I would have found some lap time, but I don't want to show it. And typically when you do the debriefs, the engineers, you tend to just look at the fastest laps. You don't troll through all of the laps. So there's tricks you can do to just keep things up your sleeve.
Tricks of the trade, the gamesmanship involved, even at that level.
Well, for example, I would often use the drinks button as because you don't really drink during practice. You'd use the drinks button as a marker.
Would you then get a lot of water as well?
You might do, but you know, you do a double click or you do a triple click or something. I remember when we used to do that Valencia street race, we tried a whole load of different diff maps, and there was one that worked really well, and I did it on a particular lap, and I did a triple click. I remember on the button, and we didn't tell the other side of the garage. You know, you just have a secret.
Was that other side of the garage when it was Bruno Senna?
Yeah, and I'm sure they did similar things. You know, like. You know, Bruno's one of my close friends of it today, but you all play games.
It's part of the game. Everyone knows what they're signing up for, aren't they? Talk of the game. We are well and truly getting into this free practice 2 session. Majority out there on the medium tyre, except for Max Verstappen, who is now second on that hard tyre, as you can see. Piastri quickest. With a 1:15.7, whilst we have a magnificent vista of the pit lane up in the commentary box on the start-finish straight, we've sent Martin Brundle around the track. Martin, where have you found yourself?
I'm at turns 7 and 8, 2 for the price of 1 down here. Quite interesting to see the cars come through, to see Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. And they pick up the throttle really, and they want to keep those turbochargers spooling up. They want to keep boost in the system, and it's really lovely to see, because through the exit of this chicane at 7 and 8, they could just
Oh, go away. Are you kidding me?
of this chicane that creates turn 7 and 8, they could just hear the balancing the power. They've got a surplus of power, and they don't floor it, but they just pick the throttle up, and the back end moves around really nicely until it doesn't, until it snaps. For a Williams driver, don't know which one it was, because it was just going up the hill away from me. Absolutely had to grab a handful of opposite log to stop the car smashing into the barriers as they both go around line of stern now, the two Williams. So it's really nice to see the drivers balancing the throttle. We haven't seen that for a long time, and having to choose the right amount of power. And it's just a nice, lovely slide. And as always, with the aerodynamics, as soon as you start going sideways, you can lose downforce because the air, of course, is going across the car slightly, not in a straight line. We call it yaw when it's sliding like they do in aviation. So you don't want it to get too far away. You don't want the slip of the tyre to be too much. Peak traction's about 5% slip rotationally on the tyre as well. So they're just sitting there with that sort of lovely feel. Remember, the rear tyres are quite a long way behind the cockpit, but it's an instinctive feel. It's a lovely feeling when you're at one with a car like that. They just balance and go and feel, and somehow you'll get a sixth sense of when it's just about hooked up enough to floor it up the hill towards turn 9. Let's see what the Aston Martin looks like through here. Fernando Alonso not pushing particularly hard. Lewis Hamilton on an in-lap there, trying to cool everything down a little bit. Here comes a Red Bull sweeping down the hill. And yeah, they're really beginning to sort these cars out now. So that's the story down here. I'm going to head up to turn 12.
Thank you very much, Martin. We'll rejoin you a little later on, around the moment, running out wide through that long right-hander of turn 3. But here is then your championship leader, Kimi Antonelli, 5 on the trot, looking to make it 6 wins in a row on Sunday. Nobody since 2010, when we had a different point system, has had that kind of a gap, 66 points over second place at this stage of the championship.
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary run, hasn't it? He's using the overtake mode. You can see in the graphic in the middle of the screen, and it's an aggressive down change, trying to get the revs up, and he's gone off track there. So if this was qualifying, it wouldn't count, and indeed he has aborted the lap as well. So just waiting to turn 10 at the end of the back straight, a little bit hot, and we'll now just try and calm the tyres down and go again. But his teammate has gone fastest of anybody in the first sector. However, do we think that's right? But according, sorry, yes, he has. This is his first lap, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he had to. If he did do one before, because he ran wide through turn 3,
That's
he might have had to abort.
Yeah,
so he did abort.
Yeah, so this is his first push lap as well. So Russell faster than anyone, sector 1. A little bit down on Piastri, the middle sector, a tenth or so down, and we'll see as he gets to the last couple of corners. He's got a bit of traffic in front, but they've dived into the pits. Isaac Hadjar dived into the pits, and he goes up 2 tenths off Piastri.
Now, interesting, you would have seen the rear flashing rain lights there, flashing different colours.
Yes.
Blue. Normally it's just red, and spoken to the FIA, because we trialled this out a couple of races ago, different colours on the rear light to differentiate between the MG UK states, basically. Know when it's no longer at full power, when it's fully cut, and when a driver is, I dare say the word, super clear. Previously, all of them were dictated by a red light with varying different levels of flashes. So the FIA, I was told they were just practicing for FP1, but clearly not, Ted. They've also got it out for FP2.
Yes, thank you very much, Harry. I have a Valtteri Bottas update for you. He is not out on track, and there are lots of people with laptops, so we think it's a controls system, a little electronic gremlin that they're trying to figure out with the software down here. Cadillac, the car seems all ready to go. It's all buttoned up. It's got tyres on, but 1, 2, 3. Yeah, more laptops than curries down here. So they're trying to. Other shops are available, of course. So yeah, they're trying to figure out what get the brain of this Cadillac car number 77 going. And Valtteri Bottas will be out on track. Of course, did do FP1. It was Sergio Perez who had to make way to Colton Herta earlier. But hopefully for Bottas, he's got nothing to learn about this circuit, but lots to learn about this circuit in a Cadillac in warm conditions. So hopefully he'll be out soon.
Yes, certainly. Thanks, Ted. And Cadillac, who were plagued by brake issues out in Monaco, struggling to put out literal fires, and Bottas not really having the best run of things at the moment, being rather outdone by Sergio Perez on the other side of the garage, which, although it's not a battle for points, or maybe it would have been last time out, it's certainly not going the way of Valtteri.
No, he's been behind, hasn't he? It's raised a few questions about his future, which got battered away quite strongly by him in Monte Carlo. But as you say, he's been a good chunk in terms of lap time performance behind in recent races. Canada, Monaco, in Japan. I think he was on the verge of being lapped in the Grand Prix in Japan before the safety car by Checo. So
he's 4-2 down in quality and race.
Yeah.
Minutes, not including sprints. So Bottas clearly not comfortable with that car, despite I think they have changed as much as they can change when it comes to the floor and suspension setups for Bottas, but it's not quite working out for him. But let's see whether things improve for him this weekend. And Perez back in the other car now after Colton Herta had his FP1 outing.
Yeah, there's Lewis Hamilton. Look at the amount of green up here. That is the Fernando Alonso grandstand, isn't it? Up at turn 9. And I tell you, those fans, they spent some money over the years. They bought all the team kit. I remember the first year I came, it was all blue as he was in that Renault fighting for the championship. The colours of Asturias matching the colours of his championship-winning car. And then they had to buy McLaren kit. The Dejo orange hats appeared one year. Then the Ferrari colours to an Alpine.
Oh, engine fire. Thrusters on the box.
Problem for Liam Lawson right on the exit of the pit lane, and he's lost power. The hazard lights are on, and he looks like he's going nowhere. And let's see if he can get that car restarted again and bring it round even slowly. Otherwise, that's going to rather scupper everybody else's run plan as the virtual safety car is brought out.
Yeah, if he can't get it going, can he push it back? Will they allow him to get out and push the car back? As he just needs to get it up to the white line, which is at the pit exit. If he gets it there, then the mechanics can at least take it back into the garage.
We're hearing it might well be the gearbox. That's the issue on board Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls. A shame. Looks like he's set to miss out then on this second practice session in what's been an absolutely, I think, stellar season for the Kiwi so far. Points in 5 of the first 6 rounds that we've had. After the Gasly reinstation, or before the Gasly reinstation of the Monaco podium, he equalled his career best of 5th on the streets of the Principality last time out.
It's up. That's like the dash is just engine stop. No gears. I think it's gonna. Oh, the gearbox door. Dude. Oh my god.
I wonder if it's like it's almost started like some sort of hydraulic issue. It's just sort of shutting down, and then he couldn't do anything with it.
Well, either way,
Then it wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, I don't know.
but he's out of the car, and that is Liam Lawson's second practice session done. So he's off early on a Friday. Virtual safety car out. Everybody else still saunters round on track, but hitting a limit. And after the first 15 minutes or so, is Oscar Piastri on top.
I timed that so perfectly. I'm so good at this.
Making his way back to the pit lane, Liam Lawson out of FP2, having to pull up on the side of the road, suspected gearbox issues. He lost all power and had to get on the back of the moped and make his way back. And a short distance then for the young Kiwi to make his way back, but unfortunately Racing Bulls now 1 car down with just over half an hour left of the session. It's kind of normal service resumes once again. We had 7 FP1 drivers in FP1. One of them was Fred Vesti, who joins us now. You were in for Kimi Antonelli. Fred, how was it? P15 in the end, but what were you getting up to in that Friday run?
Well, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. I was driving W17 in the simulator already beginning of last year. We've done so much work to get to this point. Obviously, having done so well W17, I couldn't wait to drive it, and yeah, it was amazing to finally try it for the first time.
And talk to us about was there pressure? Getting in the car, the guy leading the World Championship. How does that feel?
Yeah, of course, there's always the pressure, but I'm also putting a lot of pressure on myself, and that's what I feel. I want to do well. I'm here to do well, and but first of all, it's an amazing opportunity. You realize when you're sat in an F1 car, very few people get to do this, and especially in a live official Formula One session.
It was brilliant seeing you out there. We saw you getting out of the car and looking like, I mean, you could tell the adrenaline was still so high. What a feeling as well. As you say, you spent a lot of your time in the simulator as well, back at base. How much is that like the real thing? I suppose part of your job is trying to make the correlation as good as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably 80% realistic. Obviously, I found out the hard way. I had a massive lockup on my medium on the second lap, and that's not something I've experienced in the sim. So that's something I'll be taking back to Brackley for sure, and then trying to change that and make it better. We normally, in the previous years, haven't had the front wing going up and down. With these cars, with SM, we have a lot less front load at peak brake, and in the sim we haven't captured that, and that's what we need to improve. So it's those kind of details that I'm going to bring.
So now walk us through this, because what happens now? Do you go back to Brackley? Do you get on the simulator this weekend? Do you get back there tonight? What happens with you now?
So I did the debrief, and I had a longer debrief as well with the sim team, who will be running tonight overnight in the sim. I'll be staying here because I'm third driver, so if any of the drivers
Slip on a banana peel.
yeah, then I need to be ready. So I won't be able to get back to Brackley before next week, but I will be in, and we have lots of work to do to correlate this FP1.
Are we going to see you in another FP1 session this year?
Probably, most likely. That's a good thing for rookies. We have 4 sessions, and it's such a great regulation for us. I'm sure the race drivers find it slightly annoying having to give the keys to the car, but for us, it gives my chance to practice.
Yeah, but it's more annoying for you, isn't it? It's like, you get a bag of your favorite popcorn, and it's just the right amount of salt, butter, all the rest of it, and poor Fred gets to have one piece out of the top, and then has to give the whole bag to Kimi Antonelli for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah,
that's what it's
you
like,
summarised that well. That's what it feels like.
I know. I've been in this position. I was a rookie driver Dick Fridays. It's an awful feeling at the end of the FP1 where you go, oh, I'm done now.
But I can only relate. It's like me studying in for property this weekend.
Oh, you get 2 more goes.
No, only one more go. You'll see me. Well, who knows? Who knows?
Breaking news.
Breaking news. But I think there's a lot of drivers, Fred, out of contract at the end of this year. It's a big season for many, especially in that midfield pack. Obviously, we all know you want to be racing on a Sunday. You were so good in Formula 2, fighting it out in the championship. What are the chances? What are the opportunities? How do Mercedes help you on that side of things?
I mean, being a Mercedes driver is already a big thing for a driver, but it's no lie. Formula 1 seat is what I dream of. It's what I work for every single day. And yeah, we are speaking to a couple of teams, and part of that is these FP1s. So it's showing what I'm capable of doing. Today's running was mainly focused around the long run, which came out really positive. So that's the kind of data I want to be gathering, and then go to speak to these team principals. And that's what you get when you do FP1s. You get a chance to expose yourself to the wider world of Formula 1 and to the teams. And yeah, that's a great opportunity.
And who helps you with that, Fred? Because you're part of Mercedes, but are you part of the management? We've seen how Toto and Gwen Lebreu have worked with getting Esteban Ocon into different seats, and we've seen obviously George started at Mercedes, and it's not just the works Mercedes team. There's potential opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, so I'm really lucky. I have obviously the support of Toto, Bradley Lord, and Gwen Legree as well. So that's a strong backing from Mercedes, and they really want to see me in a Formula 1 car. You never know what's going to happen in the future, and having one of their drivers, another driver, on the field would be beneficial for them. And also for Toto, he's a racer, and I can really feel that with him. He wants me to be on the grid. He can see how much I'm putting into it. And then I have my manager, Dorte Riis-Madsen, who has been following me since Formula 4, and she's here today, and she'll be here every single race this year, supporting and knocking on those doors.
And tell us about the drivers. So, Harry and I were talking about this morning, actually. So, how much does George or Kimi talk to you directly? Do they text you or call you and say, hey, listen, did you try this in the same? Do they talk to you one-on-one and just try and get a bit of direct feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially this year with the PU changes, with the new car, it's a lot more tricky for the drivers. There's a lot more going on. So my role has sort of changed. It's become more important, especially with the sim work. I have a lot of knowledge I have a lot of early knowledge that they want to know before the weekend. So I'm trying to help them as much as I can. And also, like with Toto, standing next to him during sessions, he has a lot of questions because there's a lot to understand with these cars, and only if you spend hundreds of hours in these cars, you will really understand what's going on. So I'm sitting on a lot of knowledge that I'm trying to pass on to the drivers in time of a race weekend.
You, I'm doing a bit of prodding here because you race in sports cars as well, and you have a link with Cadillac. Surely there's a nice setup there to be had.
I mean, I would like I said, I wasn't excited about that connection. Obviously, being with Cadillac Racing and sports cars is already a cool thing, but knowing that they have a Formula One team, that's an obvious important one. So yeah, it's cool to have them here in a Formula One, and it's cool to see the progress they're making as well.
Are you watching Le Mans this weekend? How are you? What's your setup? Have you got your iPad ready for the start and
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to be watching my two teammates, and they're going to be starting in the top 10. They have a fast car. The Cadillac Racing is flying, so I will be watching, and let's see how it goes.
Well, they were unlucky, weren't they? They should have had pole, and they had a procedural issue. They piffed off pole Jack Aitken. So it will be a fun, busy weekend for you. One eye on F1 and one eye on the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, talking about an eye on F1, go on then, Fred, you've been out on this track this morning. This is the first time we're seeing this new generation of cars since the shakedown at the start of the season. We're on board with Charles Leclerc right now. Can you put us in his shoes, in his cockpit as he heads around?
Yeah, so obviously putting on the SM here puts a bit of understeer into this corner. At this point, he's already suffering from rear overheating, which will make the car quite unstable. So it's always a battle trying to manage the rear tires. Actually, these cars feel remarkable in the high speed. I was really surprised how good they feel. And that's not really what we heard at the beginning of the year, but I think with the teams already putting a lot of upgrades on these cars, they honestly feel good.
Because you can see at turn 9, it was only a half lift. It wasn't a full lift. Let's have a look at the final corner, because he's flat through the penultimate one. How quick do you think the last corner will be?
Yeah, it's almost flat there, and that's incredible. I think it really shows how much progress the teams are making so early in the season.
And across the line, Charles Leclerc, fastest of anybody in the middle sector. On the soft tyre, though, slower than Oscar Piastri.
We just box, have a bit of a regroup, or I haven't helped over the car, so I disconnected before, so that's what's going on here.
So Alex Albon not happy, is he?
No, but we're getting into the quali sims now, so this is getting exciting, isn't it? Because George Russell has gone a bit faster than anyone else in Sector 1 into this left-hander that Fred was saying. It's always a bit weird, isn't it? You get understeer the way in, then it snaps sometimes the way out. Lift for 9. So, Fred, you were talking about the tyres, so in the middle part of the lap. So when we get this last sector, what is it? Is it the rears that they're struggling here?
Yeah, the rear is well out of the window, and we have tools in the car that will try and tighten down the car and make it more stable. Sometimes it's enough. I think here in Barcelona Sector 3 it's not enough, because we're putting these rear tires to the test, but you can, and we have things available that can help us on the steering wheel.
George Russell on the soft tyre to the top of the timesheets, almost 3/10 ahead of Piastri, but let's see what the other soft tyre runners can do, because Antonelli then across the line in 4th. But that time for Piastri on the mediums,
yeah,
pretty good. And what have we got going on here? Fernando Alonso sneaking past the Red Bull and then bailing out of it.
This is one thing you don't talk about as a rookie getting in. Just managing Formula One car, all the procedures, and then also the traffic, it's so difficult, isn't it?
How much are you in communication with Bono on the pit wall?
I mean,
stuff like that.
On the cool lap, the radio is basically just open. There's cars flying around you all the time. There's lots of information being passed on before the next push lap. So it's very busy.
So Antonelli found 7/10 between the medium and the soft. Russell found just under 6/10. Fred, do you think that's what we're looking at here? The medium and the soft were half a second and 6/10?
Yeah, I think so. That's a bit more than I expected, but it could also be with obviously driver improvement, just maximizing that soft tire. It might be easier to push them corners. And
So Piastri is the one we need to see now, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
he's done a 15.7 on the medium tyre, and he's just come out of the pits. I saw at the window, Harry, a brand new set of red soft tyres. So we'll see what he does on this lap.
I think we will. Yeah, it's just coming through the medium sector now. So middle sector now. So it'll be a couple of minutes before we see what he's got. Second on that medium tyre, though. Impressive. Yeah, Gasly's out there on the soft tyre. Personal best from him in the middle sector. Around the final corner now. Bit of overtake. Straight line mode activates. Improves, but only 16th.
Just looking at Fernando Alonso coming across the line, and 19.2. It's not what the home fans have come to see. Is that the two Aston Martins behind Perez's Cadillac at this stage.
And this is a track, Fred, that I suppose, because so much testing has been done here, it's going to expose all the weaknesses that a car has.
yeah, I mean, we've been saying at Mercedes, Montreal, Monaco is real racetrack, sure, but this is the real test. This is where we're going to see which cars have made improvements.
And the other Aston Martin finding the runoff at turn 9 and rejoining the track. Lance Stroll just didn't look like he was going to make the corner there, and he didn't.
That's a rare one for somebody to bail out of it that early. He must have had a moment on the way into the corner. Piastri there, but a correction at the apex. That put him slightly wide onto the dirty part. So his first sector, pretty good, 22.0. Still 10th and a half slower than Russell's, but we often see this in Barcelona. Drivers give up a little bit of performance in sector 1, manage the tyres. It gives them some reward in sector 3, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so easy to slip the rear tire and go over this window, and if you do that, it's going to penalize you for the rest of the lap. So sometimes it's worth it just giving up a little bit in the beginning and sort of let it come to you late in the lap. And yeah, let's see.
As Oscar Piastri, we're going to see what he's got on his soft front. Just really pushing the boundaries of what that McLaren can do. Let's just see what he's got over the line. For Oscar Piastri, bolted on a new fresh pair of boots, and it's second, just shy of half a tenth from George Russell.
So, understandably, his time in the last sector was a bit down compared to his medium tyre, because as Fred was saying before, the soft overheats. But he didn't find the big performance jump in sectors 1 and 2 that other people found.
No, we'll continue monitoring that. We've got about 24 minutes left of the session. Fred Vesti, we've taken up far too much of your time. We're going to have to let you go. Before we do that, the environment of the team right now, Mercedes, how is it all going, and what do you think is going to happen on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. This race is sort of an important one for the car, also for George, having had a few difficult weekends. It's good to see him in P1. He's taught me a lot. It's good. I know what he's capable of doing, so I'm definitely excited to see what he can do this weekend. And overall, the environment is good. We're working so hard on bringing upgrades to the car. We know we're in a good place, but we need to keep pushing.
Fred Vesti, top man, great work this morning. I look forward to seeing you again in another P1 session and throughout the weekend. Mercedes F1 reserve driver Fred Vesti with us in the commentary boxes. Lando Norris is now out there on the soft tyre. Just saw his teammate Oscar Piastri in second and on his first run on a fresh pair of boots. So we'll get a good comparison here with his teammate. Norris at the moment down in 7th, having put that on the medium tyre. To the line then for the reigning champion and to the top.
Yeah, McLaren looking good here. This feels a bit more like Miami, doesn't it? Where McLaren, at least on a Friday, and let's stress, it is still this Friday, and it is still this free practice, but they are much more in the game than they were in Catalan, where at no stage of the weekend did they look like challenging the Mercedes cars.
Bit of time lost there for Piastri, though.
Yeah, this was the last sector we saw, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He lost some time there. We saw an error slightly in turn 4 as well, a bit wide. So, yeah, there are a couple of bits there. And in the end, he's only 57 thousandths of Lando's time.
Well, McLaren looking good. Let's just see what's happened to Alonso here. And he's decided to get out of the way of some quicker traffic, or was that So this is the FI students involving Alonso. This will be investigated after the session, crossing the line at the pit exit.
Yeah, you can see that he quite clearly went over it, but I think he was alongside that Red Bull, and they were all trying to not get in the way of the car coming down the straight. So,
And it's only practice. So we'll see. I can't imagine that one will, if there is anything, it will be too much more than a reprimand, or maybe a price to pay in terms of money. Right, Ted Kravitz, shall we head down to you in the pit lane?
Thank you very much, Harry. Yes, a couple of Red Bull related things. RB are trying to get Liam Lawson's car back, whether it's from the end of the pit lane up or on the end of on the back of a recovery truck to the front of the pit lane, to the top of the pit lane, and then wheel it back down. I've seen mechanics going either way, trying to see where Lawson's car is. Please, can we have it back? And the other one is Max Verstappen. Where is Max Verstappen? Are we going to see the heroics of Monaco and the front row start? Well, that's him radio.
Something's wrong with the rear of the car. Car was dragging down the straight. Could be the wind. Maybe a rotation of the wind.
No reply. You would have thought Hamilton would know if it was the wind, with his experience, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, well, yes, one would think that.
I mean, he's talking about the bottom of the car dragging along the ground.
Yeah. Must be the water. A moment for Ferrari. But the other thing about Red Bull Racing and Verstappen, of course, is bear in mind that it's obviously a new power unit, but we understand it's also a new chassis at Red Bull. This was put to Max yesterday, and he didn't deny it. He said, obviously, we're going to see what's happening with the new engine. That would be good. It's a fresh engine. The last one went kaput in Monaco. We know about that. But Max added, it's the first time to see if we're competitive or more competitive in high-speed corners. And that's something that Max feels the Red Bull has lacked so far. They do have a little upgrade here this weekend. With Max saying this circuit will truly tell if we've taken a step forward with this Red Bull chassis in the high-speed corners. Of course, one of the many corner profiles that they have around here in Barcelona. And as I speak, you might be able to see out of your commentary box more Racing Bulls mechanics going to the top of the pit lane, where they must have a recovery truck, must have found and located Liam's car, and is ready to be delivered back to the garage, so they can make that early start that Karoon talked about.
Absolutely. Let's see if they can get that car repaired overnight in time for FP3. Quick laps on their way here in FP2. It's not as quick as right now.
Holy crap, that was close.
Now languishing down in 19th. We've seen some soft tyre running as well. Quick running, qualifying simulations out on track. The McLaren's looking good. One man who's out and about for us this afternoon is Martin Brundle. Martin, where have you moved to?
As I'm at turn 12, but I get a very good view then of turns 10 and 11. And you talked a lot up in the commentary box quite rightly about how it punishes the rear tyres here. Rear tyre limited racetrack this is. And as they do the longer runs, especially George Russell, he's definitely got a nicer way than anybody of picking up the throttle in 10, the kink of 11, and then into turn 12, as we see Lando Norris coming through as well. Red Bull have got a lot of work to do on their rear tyre temps because they're swirling around. Max Verstappen had to scoop up a massive slide a little while ago. There he is now, and he's working the steering wheel harder in 12 than a Mercedes or a McLaren, for example. You can see the back of the car, they're wagging their tails. They're desperately trying to find some traction from those overheated rear tyres. And Alpine with a lot of work to do as well on their traction. The Racing Bulls livery looks even better on the track than it does in the pits. And they're obviously one of them is going okay. But the drivers are, I'm delighted to say, really having to drive the cars almost every metre of the way as well. See what McLaren looks like under traction. Absolutely no movement whatsoever there. With the McLaren coming out of turn 10. This turn 12 has been the same forever. Actually, my claim to fame is I'm the first driver, F1 driver, ever to do a lap there in pre-qualifying in 1991, believe it or not, 35 years ago. And this corner was always the same. Hurry up and wait. You get a little bit of vertical movement on the asphalt as well. You get in and you just have to let the car settle down and then pick it up and drive through the exit. If you attack it too hard on the way in, it'll just punish you on the way out. You get this sort of fallow moment in the middle of the corner as Max Verstappen goes through there, still hacksawing away at the wheel. Charles Leclerc now. It's a really tricky, slightly frustrating little 180-degree right-hander here. And then, of course, you unleash the car for the last two very fast corners. So great spot to see a Formula One car working hard under very hot conditions and challenging for the tyres. Back to you.
Thanks, Martin. Hope you got the factor 50 on out there as well, as the sun continues to beat down. Now, this just happened a few moments ago as we were chatting. Max Verstappen into turn 10.
Can I stop before I try the other tire? This is the purpose.
Yeah, copy that, Max.
Not happy on those hard tyres. Looks like he's done an 11-lap stint on them. That's Max Verstappen.
But from what we can see in the commentary box, he's the only one who's used the set of hard tyres today. So is everyone else thinking about the fact that this could be a two-stop race and they might need two sets of hard tyres for the Grand Prix? So they're saving the two sets of hard tyres that they get, whereas Red Bull prefer to do a bit of running today, get a bit of information, learn a little bit on that hard tyre ahead of Sunday.
Well, speaking to Pirelli beforehand, they were saying part of the reason by bringing a softer stepping tyre this weekend compared to last year was to try and encourage multiple stops and the use of the hard tyre. So that perhaps panning out with Max Verstappen, though, seeing what he can do.
Yeah, I mean McLaren will be really encouraged because I'm just looking at the recent laps on the race pace, and Norris is right up there matching Russell sort of lap for lap. And it's looking Charlotte Leclerc's just done a very fast lap. He's on medium, so done 4 laps. But he's just gone out there another 20.8, which is a big chunk quicker than anybody else. So we'll see if he's got any drop off. Oh, did Hamilton have? We didn't really see Lewis's lap, did we?
No.
His best lap is quite some way off. Obviously, we heard him on the radio talking about the bottom of the car dragging down the start finish straight, but for him to be 8, 9 tenths off Leclerc, that's a long way in terms of recent form.
Yeah, we also had a radio message from Lando Norris's engineer, Will Joseph, saying they think they've made a mistake and not taken out any front wing on one of his laps and to pit if they thought it was worth it. But he didn't pit, and he stayed out. So perhaps he's okay with it at the moment, is the reigning champion. Let's see what his teammates got on that medium tyre, making use of the long run data gathering. Down in third quickest overall. Max Verstappen has finally got rid of those hard tyres that he was not happy about. I believe he's put on a set of the soft tyres. So we'll see what Max Verstappen can do in the closing stages of today's running. Free practice 2, 60 years ago, John Surtees won the 1966 Belgian Grand Prix with second place Jochen Rindt achieving his first F1 podium. John Surtees, the only man to win on 2 and 4 wheels, and we've got 7-time and reigning world MotoGP champion here, Marc Marquez, this weekend as well. All the stars out across this weekend.
So for that's a nasty little snap as he came around turn 3 there for Fernando Alonso as he comes into turn 4. Let's see if we get to the left hand. It's on the, you can see just the attitude of the car. There's less energy in the way he drives, less energy in the inputs he's making, because this is where it's all about smoothness as I look after the tyres with a fat heavy fuel load.
There's that catch. Trying to get past Perez. Having a snap and a squeeze.
But why did he do that? I need a question to him. Like, is it aware or he didn't see me or something?
Yeah, copy that. We'll have a look at it.
Bit close for comfort for Hajar there. Perez maybe not quite looking in his mirror as he turned in. For Fernando Alonso, he got the point last time out after the penalty for Perez, and it's not the same situation, but motivation, Karoo. When you were racing for Hispania, there wasn't points on the table. There was a rough car. You didn't really have high hopes going into each weekend. How do you stay motivated when you know the best you can hope for is a field full of reliability issues and yours somehow makes it to the end?
Yeah, but I think for him, the 1 point, it meant nothing. Yeah, he's done 24 years of this. He doesn't need another point. He wants victories, and for him, it was just about performance. And Monaco showed that on a circuit that's not power sensitive, they still weren't competitive. It's one thing to say that at a high-speed track like Canada, okay, the power unit's down and so they're at the back, but on a track that's not power sensitive, the least power sensitive track on the calendar, probably Monte Carlo, they were still nowhere. They still were not a Q3 car, for example, right? So, I think it's just been a massive disappointment for Fernando. If you think back, it wasn't that long ago. It really wasn't that long ago where we were thinking of Aston as the big four becoming the big five. We were right up there.
At first year with Fernando, and they were right up there. Lance Stroll was scoring as well. There was big points for both of them, and it's just been a decline ever since. That incident at turn 4 between Perez and Hajar has been noted by race control. So we'll see if that gets elevated or not. But it could be Fernando Alonso's last Grand Prix in Barcelona, with retirement rumours continuing to swirl for him. It was 230 races since his last win here back in 2013.
That's a great livery, isn't it? That Racing Bulls, as we see Lindblad carrying on, doing his learning on these race runs, and just watch it, wait. You have to be so patient with the right foot as you pick the power up in that final sector.
George Russell running wide. Yeah, a little bit of a knock up on the front left to boot, and some gravel. And a bit close, rejoining the track as well, but you don't really have any other option at that point. 3 cars all steaming in with the Aston, Antonelli and Norris all having to lift off and get out of the way. Russell makes it back to pit lane and heads back up again.
Yeah, it's important to be on track for these final few minutes, because then you get to the practice start at the end of the session as well. Barcelona is a track where they can do practice starts at the end of the pit lane, but it's always better to do it on the grid if you can.
Something that will look down the midfield. You mentioned Arvid Lindblad doing well. Bortoletto, who had a bit of a nightmare FP1, had lots of trouble. Paul Aron was in the other car, actually really starred. Did Paul Aron, the Estonian, on loan from Alpine for that session. Hulkenberg's down at 11th at the moment. It felt like a case in Monaco for Audi for a real missed opportunity for them. Again, plagued by technical issues for Bortoletto in the race. Hulkenberg could have picked up some points, but had the penalty, but still hasn't got any points this year.
I feel like he's been fast enough to sort of deserve something, but they don't have great reliability. They've had a whole lot of issues, which you'd expect as a new team, a new power unit manufacturer in F1. But he's had a whole spate of 11th places, hasn't he, Conor Hulkenberg, in qualifying. The other one I was looking at in midfield is Ollie Bearman, 12th place Ollie Bearman, which is sort of where Haas expect to be, but crucially 6/10 ahead of Esteban Ocon. And somebody was pointing out to me earlier, Canada the car wasn't great. Bearman did a great job to drag himself in. I think on 1 point.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Montreal, didn't he? But he was
which he felt he didn't deserve.
Yeah, but he was nearly a lap ahead of Ocon. And again, that was a fairly punchy sort of press conference on Thursday that Ayo Komatsu, the boss of Haas, did in Montreal, wasn't it? To bat away the rumours of Ocon being replaced. But, this is a performance sport. This is a meritocratic performance sport in that sense where the numbers don't lie. You can look at the timesheets and you look at the results and you go, hang on a second, if this one driver is being beaten consistently by their teammate, then the pressure's on.
Pressure on Frantinelli in that corner, but finding the same line almost as his teammate George Russell didn't quite venture into the gravel. But no, I completely agree with you on the Haas point. But you look at Monaco last time out, and both really struggled in qualifying, but Ocon got the points.
Brake pedal feels horrible. So long.
Kvyat, they're not happy with the feeling on his brakes. Been talking a lot about brakes coming into this weekend, and we'll continue that chat as well off the back of Charles Leclerc and his Ferrari. That crash in Monaco and being very heated and blaming the brakes. Been blaming the brakes all weekend long. Hasn't been happy with Brembo. His brake supplier has made a change for this weekend to go more towards Lewis Hamilton's setup with Carbon Industries, the other brake disc supplier, but still using Brembo calipers, just to try and find a little bit more bite, a little bit more feeling again in those brakes for Charles Leclerc, who is, after those quick runs earlier, what did he end up doing? 3.5 cents off of Norris in fourth. Hoping to try and get that confidence back and get back to some more consistent point scoring for Charles Leclerc, because Lewis Hamilton is actually beating him.
Just look at the front left tyre. Look at the inside shoulder of the front left tyre when Antonelli gets to a slow corner. You see the chunks of rubber coming off that. That is, it's almost like blistering almost on the shoulder. You know, we heard Fred talking about earlier saying how outside the window, that's the temperature window. So the drivers all have the temperatures on the dashboard. Just look at it. It's almost like there's blisters. It's just wearing so much because of the heat on the inside. It sort of pops from the inside. I'd like to have a look at those tyres, actually. I don't know if Ted and I are going to be in the paddock afterwards. They often, mechanics bring the tyres out the back of the garages, and it'd be quite nice. Look at it.
Is it flicking off?
Yeah. It'd be quite nice to have a look at these at people's tyres
before Pirelli come in and take them away from you.
Well, it's quite funny because they stand there washing them off the back of the garage. It's been going on for years. And I think you see engineers wandering around, look at each other teams' tyres, because they're all just off the back having them washed before they go back to Pirelli.
Whatever advantage they can gain by having a little look, they will. But I think tyres will certainly play a massive factor. Not only in qualifying, will you only get one lap before you start to experience the tyre life falling off due to the high temperatures that we've got. And then in the race on Sunday, it's always been really a two-stop race, Barcelona. Could we see a third stop and the use of the hard tyre as well if degradation is high? Track temperature at the moment, 45 degrees, nearly 46, air temperature just below 30 degrees, and that is kind of set to stay for the remainder of the weekend. As the clock slowly counts down to the end of this session, get a look inside the Williams pit wall. Lewis Hamilton up towards turn 9.
Oh, on the outside curb. We saw Colton Herta and Pierre Gasly doing that, didn't we, in FP1, and you just hear the bottom of the car hitting that curb. It's a little
they have bigger snaps. They have more of a snap, and that one looked like it went. He was just driving wide up out the corner.
He didn't do it on purpose.
No, but rather than getting a snap on the rear to control it.
The deck is very high for everyone.
Deg is high, 3/10.
You know what that means? Going to be in for a fun race.
And we look forward to that, Karun,
on Sunday. Right, I've got to run back to the paddock and leave you to it.
Thanks, Karun. Really putting a shift, aren't you? Thank you. I'll catch you later. We'll have the F1 show coming up for you as well on Sky Sports F1 as the clock counts down to 0. That is the day's track action done and dusted. And FP2 comes to a close as we did manage to get Liam Lawson back out on the track. So good work from the Racing Bulls engineers to recover his car after suspected gearbox issue. He conked out right at the end of the pit lane. He got a moped back to his garage, and Racing Bulls managed to get the car back in time enough to send him round for a couple of laps. and across the line for Liam Lawson. We'll be hoping to continue his brilliant point scoring form right now, although does lose out after Pierre Gasly's third place in Monaco has been reinstated. And that does drop Lawson a few points, still inside the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship now. But there is your reigning champion, the man who sits pretty at the end of free practice 2, qualified.
Indeed, he does here this weekend. So FP1 was topped by George Russell. FP2 topped by the man himself, Lando Norris, and that is Kimi Antonelli being impeded. Not happy. Antonelli certainly not happy there with Piastri getting in his way, and a bit of a swerve going on there from Antonelli as he tries to get by the McLaren. Of course, we have GT World Challenge Australia coming up straight after this. Black and white flag for Perez for driving erratically out there. So that's not ideal. And the other thing I saw coming through the final corner, a lot of rubber buildup on the outside of the road down there. So very interesting to see how that will play out throughout the weekend. And again, it will play out. A lot of rubber will be built off the outside of the circuit as the weekend goes on, as George Russell now inside the cockpit of that helmet. So now the cars make their run around, and now drivers will get practice starts.
Come back after being a little bit invisible in Monaco. As the practice starts ensue, we've seen that Ferrari advantage with their small turbo really benefit them in the first few races of the year. But it does seem like Mercedes and the likes of McLaren have got on top of that, and that advantage negated by Ferrari. Let's hear from the Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli, finding the bike point, and off he goes. You can still see the state of those front tyres, particularly the inside, that front left medium tyre. Antonelli ending the session down in 5th.
And a lot of rubber on those tyres. That is Oscar Piastri. So close to the championship last year. Just couldn't get it done. As now the cars launch their way off the line and up towards turn number 1. So GT World Challenge Australia up next for their first race of the weekend. The race, of course, will be coming up straight after this. We'll see how that rolls for these drivers. So, FP2 done. We're going to get the results from that session in just a few moments' time. So now the drivers make their run up through towards turn 7, turn 8. That is George Russell on screen.
Alpine and Pierre Gasly to get that third place back. We understand Red Bull and McLaren have issued a notice of intention to appeal that outcome. And the teams have 96 hours to decide whether to press ahead with that actual appeal. So we'll keep you up to speed with all of that from Monaco. Just a week ago, continues to spill over into this Barcelona weekend. Max Verstappen, brilliant job in Monaco just to miss out on pole position. But down in 6th, almost 9/10 adrift of Lando Norris, 10 years on since his first win in Formula One at the age of 18 years and just 228 days old when he got that promotion. And Carlos Sainz and Williams, one of the other home heroes in the field, along with Fernando Alonso. Sainz only down in 14th at the end of that. Williams struggling a little bit in these early stages. We heard Alex Albon on the radio back in the car for FP2. And Luke Browning was supposed to be in that car for FP1, but never got out with some suspected electrical issues. And Albon saying he's never felt more disconnected to a car during that session, and it kind of shows in the times behind a Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas in 19th. As the Mercedes runners head back to their box, Kimi Antonelli wheeled back into the garage. An important work then to do overnight. important work to do overnight for all the teams before we have one final practice session tomorrow and that qualifying in the afternoon. Notes on Alonso and the pit lane, crossing the pit lane line or the white line at pit exit. Just a warning given to Fernando. He'll get away with that one. Alonso in the end finishing down in 21st, just ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll. Nearly 4 seconds off the pace. This is a track that everybody knows well, but unfortunately, due to the medium high-speed corners here, it is a track that can showcase the strengths and very much the weaknesses of all of the cars in the field. And for those struggling for performance, including the Aston Martins, the Cadillacs as well, it tends to leave them further adrift than what we saw in Monaco. But Sunday could well be an interesting one, because as we've seen so far this year, reliability has really started to rear its head again in Formula One after years, really, of the cars being almost bulletproof. In this new era, we're seeing a lot more cars not make the start of the race, retire during the race. 15 runners at the end in Monaco, allowing for those to get points when it might not ordinarily be on the table. We saw Cadillac holding that precious point in P10 before Sergio Perez's penalty last time out. That gave it to Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. And then a reminder of how it all ended in FP2. Lando Norris then 9,000ths of a second quicker. At the end of FP2, McLaren on top, George Russell just behind, Oscar Piastri in third, Leclerc and Antonelli the top 5, all split by just under 0.6 of a second. Verstappen then, with time to find, down in 6th. Arvid Lindblad starring down in 7th, with Gabriel Bortoleto 8th, Hamilton 9th, Isaac Hadjar in the Red Bull rounding out the top 10. Audi look like they could be on for something decent this weekend. Nico Hulkenberg in 11th, Ollie Behrman 2. Better from him this time around in 12th. Liam Lawson, really great work from Racing Bulls to get him back out on track. Signs Franco Colapinto with Pierre Gasly in 16th. Esteban Ocon in 17th, ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Tough times for Alex Albon and the Williams down in 19th. Perez was 20th, and as we've been saying, the two Aston Martins almost 4 seconds adrift. Alonso in 21st, Lance Stroll 22nd and last. Well, that is FP2 done and dusted.
Indeed, it is. So that is FP2 done. Right now, we've got GT World Challenge Australia, and that's coming up right now. It's after the break.